Let's start building.
Well, I already did start building. For those of you just tuning in, this is your host, Bob Starkey of Dad Bod Walking, the Builder Edition. This is where I come on here and I just cathartically build some Lego to just unwind my mind a little bit from the chaos of the day and let whatever stream of consciousness come out for y'all to hear. For those of you listening, I sound hoarse. So for an audio platform, for me to sound as bad as I do, that's you know probably not the best thing. And I should, if anything, I should just be quiet for a few days. I mean, I went from doing one radio show a month on WJOB, one 25-minute segment basically once a month on WJOB, to this week I've got two morning shows, two community programming shows, so that's that's 7 hours of radio time just this week. So going from a half hour a month to 7 hours this week, I don't know how that happened, and so here I am, somehow talking and making more content. But I sound like trash. I was sick a couple weeks ago. Everything healed up. Everything's fine. But I've got this lingering whatever it is. And I'm sure it doesn't get better by that constant hack that I have. But it's all of 4 degrees outside. So, that's what I got going on. Today, as you can see, if you're watching this, I've already started building. Sorry, I had thought I hit record, and I was just rambling to the great nothingness, and I realized that I didn't hit record. So all of that content was for naught, and I'm okay with that. This kit here is Lego Kit 40775. There's a glare. I'll work on that. Oh, there we go. I'll work on that. I'm only on step 33 of 120, so you didn't miss a whole lot. I have a what appears to be just a base ground model of this mini castle, I suppose. But so I'm going to spend the first few minutes of this maybe clearing my throat. Maybe not. Maybe I'll hit the mute button. Rush Limbaugh used to have a mute button, and I've been looking to get one for the radio station. I just always have. I'm not a sickly person, but I've always, maybe it's a social tick that I clear my throat. And there's a foot pedal that it would be out of sight. It's a big red button, so I would just hit that when I need to clear my throat. Nobody would ever know. Just because, again, it's an audio medium, and on the video on the YouTube, you might catch, me off to the side, and so looking into that. They're not expensive; they're $50. So maybe let me know in the comments, or send me a thoughtful, kindly worded letter saying that it's worth $50, Bob, not to hear you hack around, which I would understand. So I have yet to figure out how I'm going to set up. I have several large sets that are going to take a fair amount of time to do, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, because I'm going to need a lot more space than this. So I don't know. We'll see. So let's get this all okay. Here we go. So I built this up. You've tuned in. The homework that I said on the last episode, that I was going to go out and I was going to watch several Lego build YouTubes to see if just see what they do, what kind of content. Like if there's two of them out there, and one gets one viewer, and they're just doing this where they just talk about whatever. And then there's another one that's doing the same thing, but they're talking about something different, and they're getting 1 million views. Well, maybe I want to tap into that. I don't know. But I also, I don't know. Am I doing this for the views, or am I just doing this to have a little mental unwinding and cathartic release? I think we're doing that. So we'll see. This is just content that's out there, and we'll see how it goes. So occasionally I will go on YouTube, and let me turn that on. Do not disturb. Focus. Um, or maybe I don't want to focus. I just don't want to hear dings while I'm doing this. But anyway, so when I was a kid, I had all the cool Lego kits. Now, if you go on eBay, they are so expensive, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the castle and the pirate ship. I would probably pay that much for the pirate ship, just out of some, I don't know, 80s nostalgia, which is why this so far is the only theme that I somewhat like on any of the podcasts that I do, because I get it. It's that modem noise. It is the kids playing in the background. It's the theme music to every like presentation on the slide carousel at school. Maybe some of you didn't pick up on that, and that's perfectly fine too. But it is such a youthful thing for me. Some of you, if you know me, know that I have my entire left leg. I've got maybe 20 tattoos. It's not covered, but it's getting there. All sorts of pop culture things. I mean, I've got the He-Man sword. I've got the Enterprise. I've got a TARDIS. I've got the Deathly Hallows. I've got the Zelda Triforce. I've got the mini the Moose mug from Christmas Vacation. I've got some Star Wars stuff. I've got an old, not old like old timey, but an old digital clock that's set to 11:11 a.m. Because that's when you make a wish. But it's got the red, the red digital numbers on it, and so it's my pop culture leg. So I like all things pop culture. And Lego to me has always been something that represents that has always felt somewhat timeless. And just in the course of business, trying to figure out, you know, do I have a voice, a space in digital podcast world? What would that look like? I found that all of this stuff I was doing, it was either political or news based. I don't know that anybody wants to. I mean, there's enough of that out there. Hell, you can listen to me talk about that. So I know everybody's got their opinions about every flippin' thing under the sun. But I can say something like anywho, and oh my sweet Lord, people will just go insane because I said that. Oh, I can't believe you're one of those people that say that. What are you, uneducated, this and that? The amount, the depth and breadth of things to which people have an opinion on that make, no mind or matter will never cease to amaze me. One of the folks that I'm working on the podcast with now, a woman named Adriana Alvarez. She's early 20s. If I'm the stereotypical, 40-something, balding, conservative white dude who's a bit nerdy, she's probably the stereotypical early 20s minority progressive, collegiate. So we do not butt heads, and I think people are wanting us to. I don't know that I care to butt heads with her. She's nice person, and I think people are just looking for disagreement and, you know, angst and vitriol, and there's that. But so we're doing this thing, and the amount of people that quite literally are coming out of the woodwork to just scream about, oh, she says this, and she's because she's, they're young, they're kids, they got a different vernacular, kids these days. And I think, oh my gosh, you guys are all bent out of shape over, uh, some 20 something living rent free in your heads. It's, but I don't know, I guess you can't embarrass some people. And what I say is, so we'll have a show, we'll do our shows on Fridays. And when I that's the region rundown with Bob and Adriana on Fridays. WJOB 12:30 a.m. 104.7 FM and on YouTube. Stream live 6 to 8:30 every morning on Fridays, every Friday morning. But then I come back, and on Mondays I do the morning drive show with Chuck Pullen. It's the winter of Chuck's discontent, and um, you know that's half of the show. It felt like we're folks complaining about the Friday show. Oh, it's the worst show ever. How could you let this person say that and get away with it? And this last week, I told some of the callers, like, look, I have to go back and listen to it because I have zero clue what you're talking about. Meaning, uh, if I were to have said something, I don't remember everything that I say. Like I said, this week alone, I'm doing 7 hours of content, not including this. This may take another hour. So I'm doing 8 hours of content this week. I don't remember everything that I said. Um, I mean, and who could? Who could remember? Which is why, as a side note, if you're going to get into this, and I am not someone to speak on authority of this yet because I'm just learning myself. You absolutely have to speak uh, truth, a truth that you're willing to defend. If you go to the grocery store and someone says, "Hey, I heard you on the radio and you said this and I didn't like it," the reason it has to be true because you're not going to remember everything, and the truth is just easier to remember. So if you're going to try your hand at, I suppose that's for any public thing. I'm public in many ways with, being on the town council, being elected, doing all that stuff. Um, so I kind of resolved a while ago to just, if if someone says I said something, I meant it. Now that's not to say that I just let people accuse me of saying things without there being some fact behind it. But someone said, and I still haven't gone back to watch it because again, work 40 hours a week, 8 hours of content. So now we're at 48 hours. Uh, I have a probably 6 hours worth of town meetings all week. And at some point, you got to find time to, cook dinner and be a dad and do all that stuff. So, no, I don't necessarily remember everything that I say all the time, but that's not to say that I didn't mean it when I said it. But one of the things that I've mentioned I would do on to bag five again. Sorry for starting this late. If you're into here just watching the Lego build, um, I, I don't know. I double promise, double dog promise. I'm gonna go watch a few of these because I don't know. I mean, maybe they drop the camera so when I'm building, everything is much closer, so you can see all the details of, what goes where. And maybe someone would say, well, this is not a Lego build because you started it, you know, 30 instructions deep, but there's like 120, so I don't think you're missing too much. Um, so, anyways, these are the things that are on my mind. Are um, uh, so people are mad at the the radio show that I'm doing on Fridays. I don't think they're mad at me so much as they would like for me to say things that they feel. Tell the liberal girl this, or and I just one I had to ask a few people, and that's not to say that any of you naysayers have gotten under my skin, but I had to ask a few people, say, well, was the show bad? Trust me, you do 8 hours of content, but not every hour is going to be golden. This being a perfect example. But I said, was it bad? And they said, objectively, no. It's just, it's different, and not even different than, it's just different than what I normally do. So why would people be so? I use the word apoplectic, and I'm not sure that everyone understood what that meant, and that's fine, not. Um, but yeah, folks were just going just batty that I, you know, would allow this person to speak, evidently, but it's our radio show, so I don't know. Um, I also wonder how much of it is jealousy, in that, look, if you want a show, get a show. I don't know, find some way to be on the air somewhere. I don't know. I'm in a weird predicament because I never, what did I say last year? I used the phrase bingo card. This was never on my bingo card or my wish list. I just found that I really liked doing it. I liked putting content out there, and good, bad, or indifferent. And it's, you don't have to digest it either. It's out there. Once I'm done with it, I feel somewhat accomplished, and that's it. Um, but yeah, so people are angry about that, and I had to ask around, say, was it bad? And they said no, and I said, well, I I kind of got to know, because I don't want to put energy into something that isn't being received well. But I have a weird, um, imagine it's like a sliding scale of, okay, everything here is what, everything here is what makes people angry, and you acknowledge that, and everything's a criticism, whether it's constructive or not. It all fits in this box. Well, being elected here to, I'm here to represent, the population as a whole. But at any given time, there could be something that I say or do or pass or push that isn't liked by, 40% of the people. So I wondered if in my own head, I can see maybe 20 years ago just being either extremely depressed or very angry that people, I'm doing this stuff and you don't like it. And I don't want to say I don't care, but for whatever reason, boy, it just, you don't like it. I mean, there's other things you can be doing with your life, I suppose. Um, which is not what you want to do when you're looking to, satisfy advertisers, and all of that. You need to. I see what you're doing. You need to be somewhat mindful of that, because without the advertisers, you don't have a show, and then that's it. But I just, man, am I just so calm, cool, and collected now that people can yell and scream, and I just, okay. It doesn't. This is really cool. They use this gate, the old gate or fence thing for, let me hold this up here. The old gate or fence thing as part of the flooring. And I just think that's cool. I kind of started to learn to build things when Liam started in on Minecraft, or maybe I did first. I don't know. But that was pretty cool, because you start one way, And now I could never Lego free build like that Lego Master show where it's, hey, you get all these pieces, you get all this stuff, now make a castle. I would not have thought how to make this incline and how to make it look like brick and stone. That's not some ability that I have, though I am always impressed by that. But I do like when I'm here and I see something new that I've never seen before. So to use that grate as as flooring is actually kind of cool. Aren't you glad you tuned in now? So that is the question. Do I have just such a skewed sense of reality that when people call and they say, we hate this thing you're doing, you're garbage, everybody's garbage, that, and I can remember, I think it was Chuck was looking at me like, oh man, they're really, getting on you. And I think that is when I started to look back and think, is there an issue? Because it didn't phase me. I mean, I quite literally can sit there on the radio and have callers call in and say, hey, fatty, you're a fatty McFat, and your show was trash, and you're a rhino, and you're all these things, and, you know, and it's like, okay, next caller. And then the guys in the room were looking at me like, oh, aren't you going to say something? Aren't you going to, I liked the show West Wing. I think the views of some of the actors are crap. I think they should, you know, I think it's dangerous. Johnny Carson had it right. Johnny Carson and Jay Leno. I think you run afoul of alienating people when you start, making um, too many political comments. When your job is to be, someone to bring everyone together. This is looking pretty good. They used to have, in the 80s and 90s, the big foam, not foam, formed, plastic formed Lego castle hill. Um, it's not until I got to this point that I realized I just recreated that in a mini thing. I mean, this thing was big. I mean, it was, I don't know. There's some Lego expert out there that can tell me that, hey, that was a 20 by 20 Zabblezoot. I was like, okay, that's cool. Um, but kind of cool. So yeah. So I don't know if I know it bothers friends and family. I mean, it would too. I mean, if you had a friend out there that someone was beating up on, they were a good friend, you'd say, well, let me fight back. And I typically tell my circle, hey, call off. It's no big deal. So I don't know. Is that a thing? Can I be so zen that I don't really care what other people think? Um, I don't know. But having said that, um, last night. Okay, so this is political talk, and I'm not sure y'all want to hear it, but we have a primary in our town, which is when each political party picks their folks to who's going to represent them, who's going to run, and I've got my people that I'm supporting, and other people have theirs, and um, they were there was a meeting, and they were sitting there just talking politics, talking shop, and but within earshot of the person I'm supporting, but in a very rude way, um, very adolescent ish, very much being the bullies on the playground. And I think I made it up from my house to town hall in about 3 minutes. I'm not even sure I stopped for red lights. Send me your tickets. I don't know what to tell you. Um, because I didn't like bullies. And at some point, I will probably have have an official like campaign post about this for them. But for any of you listening, this is campaign season in America. And what I would tell you is beware the white sepulchres. And by that I mean, go ahead and look up white sepulcher on the Google box. When you're done watching this, go type it up. And it's more or less the person who um, is evil and nasty and corroded on the inside, but presents with a perfect form on the outside, to the point of being or demanding that they be the ones you follow because clearly they are the most perfect representation of everything. They can do no wrong. Um, but on the inside, their motives are bad, and they're not who they portray to be. And so in politics, I would highly recommend to that remember to beware of the white sepulcher. Um, Pay attention to who these folks are. I don't. They they're perfectly fine destroying um, people on things that don't matter. Meaning, hey, I want to run for town council and I want to fix the parks. And they'll be the first ones out there to say, "Hey, did you see John Doe? Have you ever seen him with a dog?" No, well, that's because he hates dogs. And if you hate dogs, you're a bad person. And I don't know what type of person would support a dog hating John Doe, because he's bad. I mean, I know you're not a bad person, but I'm just saying I don't know who would support that, and that's there's a lot of that going on, and no more so than local politics. There's something about local politics, man, that just gets people all sorts of going, and maybe because these folks, there's a sense of entitlement because, hey, I live in this town, this is my town. I get it. I say that my town is my town all the time. I was born and raised there, and it's my town. But yeah, these some of these folks. Oh, but what I also found is this boomer generation. Anybody who is you know 65 to 85, they, for whatever reason, have such an issue with the 35 to 55 age range. I don't know what it is. And yes, I'm painting with a broad brush. So if you are 70 and listening to this and you have no problem with a 40 something year old running the town, I'm not talking to you. But we also know these folks that they're not letting go. For whatever reason, they were told, that boomer generation was tough. I think they aspire to be as legendary as the greatest generation. Um, and in doing so, they selfishly destroyed the economy. Um, did not. I think there was a study that said the generation coming up is the first one that isn't as well off as, which, I mean, I don't get, but this show isn't about that. This is about tune into Dad Bod Walking, the anti-boomer edition. No, but this is to say that at some point in time, you have to know that uh, it's the final chapter of a public life, or when you are working and new things are coming about, and there's new people ushering this in, and things change, and for whatever reason that age bracket is having the hardest time letting go. And I don't know, maybe somebody will pull this out of the ether in 40 years, when I'm in my mid 80s, God willing, and the creek don't rise, that I'll say, "Oh yeah, okay, now I see why it's hard to let go, because I know better than these Adrianas of the world who are 20 something now, who will then be in their 40s, and maybe I'll know better than them." So maybe that's what it is. But it is so disingenuous how and how that era can think that they have adapted so well that they know everything. I just I don't understand that. I mean, if they did, they wouldn't have you know they wouldn't have allowed the school systems to turn out like they did. They wouldn't have allowed the commies to take over where they have. I mean, there's just a I know it's not a political show, but um look at this. Look at this. I've only got it's always fun. So knowing that I've got like I'm only halfway through the instructions. There's 120 something, and I'm on 63. But knowing I only got 2 bags left, little bags. This would be kind of cool. We'll be done here soon. So yeah, that's my stream of consciousness. I don't even. I think we've touched on a lot of things. If I haven't circled back to something I touched on, send me a note. Send me a comment somewhere that says, "Hey Bob, you didn't say this," and I'll go ahead and clarify whatever angst I had at the time. Um, so anyway, so geez, hope you did. So they were being rude to my friend. They were talking about my friend and um, just not even saying things that were true, as in, oh well, this person voted this way and we don't like that. So it's like, well, that's a valid point, but it was middle school, sandbox. And I have zero tolerance for bullying, none whatsoever. Um, I think it's garbage and it's trash, and um, I wonder what type of sad person, and I don't even mean that like I'm mocking them. I'm truly what type of sad person then that does that. Who has time for that? Um, so I ran up there, and I my friend can more than handle their own, um, but I went up and I sat I sat directly behind the plastics, we'll call them. How about that? Um, you know, they're trying to make fetch happen, and it just wasn't working. And so it felt like babysitting hour. That it was just so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, if certain elected people, I don't know, I don't get it. I just I want to ask you, what are you trying to accomplish here? What are your goals? And I don't know. They don't have them. I don't think. It's just the weirdest thing, guys. Pay attention. Unlike what I'm doing here. Well, that's pretty cool. Looks like a little house. I got to work on the camera angles. I'm sorry about that, guys. Um, yeah, that's pretty cool. Good job, me. 10 points to Gryffindor. This little guy goes here. So yeah, so I showed up there, um, and I think I'm going to keep doing that. There was a point not too long ago, and I don't know if it's because I started ramping up on podcasting and on the radio. I started doing other things where I've never at any point put politics on the back burner. I haven't done that. And by politics, I mean, the town council stuff. Um, I've made it known that I want to run one more time. I would, but that's not till next year sometime. So I'd like to do it one more time. 3 terms, 4-year terms, 12 years. That's plenty for me. That's enough to give, back to my community. Um, Bag number 6. But I have this renewed sense of, and maybe it's resolve, that not that I don't care about, being elected again, but I tell you, being principled is a little more important to me. Now, of course, you're going to get those folks that say, "Oh, Bob, you did this one day, and Bob, you said that one day." And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Uh, people are people love to throw any, you know, just anything at you. Oh, well, that one time we saw you jaywalking. Okay, and somehow that there's a uh, people have these weird moral equivalencies in their head that I just don't understand. Um, and so, I mean, all you could do is just say, okay, yeah, whatever. Um, and I mean, you hope that people aren't mean, that they aren't mean, they aren't cruel. But that's, I mean, look at what we did with, I mean, any politician anywhere. It's like it's fair game to just be awful to them. You can not like Trump, that's fine. You cannot like Biden, that's fine. And you can even point out some of the things that, okay, so Trump is way too bombastic, and he's mean, and so he shouldn't be whatever. Okay, fair point. All these are fair points. You can also say that, Biden, he wasn't coherent for most of his presidency. I'm not saying that he's an evil villain of the story. Um, Mainly because any of the evil villain stuff I've heard about him, you can't. I don't know. I haven't verified any of that stuff, and that's not the point of this. But yeah, politics. People are cruel, man. Everywhere they're cruel. So, what do you think? I mean, as you're listening to this, if you've made it 37 minutes in, um, have you thought about, hey, am I cruel? Um, you know, what am I a bully in some form or fashion? What's up? If you have any thoughts on that, my gosh, please let me know. I'm making me a little tower here. For those of you listening, I would imagine this is not nearly as fun as watching. Guess I also don't know if you'd find this fun to watch. Um, I do like building a good Lego, and I think we're close to being done. I do. I really need to go and look to see how other folks do this. Maybe they just do it on mute, or maybe they talk about, you know, something that's jazzing them up at the moment. I'm not really jazzed up about too many things other than uh, knowing I wanted to build some Lego, knowing I wanted to do a little bit of content making, and yeah, and talk about my friend who was bullied, and talk about my radio show who there's a lot of bullying going around, and I just say it's not affecting me. And um, but I am self-aware enough to, like I said, I did ask some friends to say, hey, um, am I on the right track of this? Is it just um, not picking up? There was I've said a lot of times that on every town, wherever you're at, there's all these um, like community pages where they get on. They're like, "Oh, did you hear boom? I think I heard gunshots. Is that fireworks again? Hey, there's a helicopter." All those community pages that are just, you know, awful, awful pages. Um, but I've said, look, I do not legislate based on Facebook, because what will happen is you get on social media and you'll get maybe 30 people to comment on something. And if you look at it in a vacuum, it's easy to start to think, wow, these people are on to something. I now must change X, whatever X being, whatever they're getting on about. And I said no, because so in my town, there's something like 17,000 people in my town. So when I see a Facebook post of, you know, 100 comments and it's the same 14 people, they'll have one person add something, and then like the wagons that have been circled around this topic, three or four of them. It's like that's not representative of a majority of anything. At best, that's a couple people at a bowling alley on one lane having a discussion. The discussion then being seen by the entire crowd and nobody else chiming in. Yeah, they might have opinions, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's important and we need to move on things right away. Which I suppose is somewhat timely. There's an interesting symbol. Day and night. So I'm wondering if that isn't a glow in the dark piece. Kind of cool. I'm gonna say I don't know that I've ever seen a glow in the dark piece. Wow, yawning on your own thing there. The issue is I'm just so tired. But I'd rather spend my time here with you people, sorting this stuff out, and just seeing what the world has to offer. I think that's a glow in the dark piece, and I think that's pretty awesome. So we're gonna see what that means. It does. How cool is that? I that's pretty cool. I I don't know. There's a door piece. Wow, and I don't recall that being advertised anywhere on the box. Normally when they have something unique, it's like, oh, with, special. It's not even door. That's. Oh, I guess it does kind of move. I've got a really good. It's a high def camera up there, but I'm wondering if the distance and the lighting um, is just not doing it. So apologies if that didn't look too clear. We'll figure that out later. Okay. Got this one here. That there. Got a couple more pieces. I mean, we're really getting close to the end of this, which is exciting. I always liked the idea of completing something. Maybe that's why I'm okay with. Like I said, there's things move so slow. It takes forever to get anything done. And so I don't agree with term limits in that elections are term limits. You don't like the person, get rid of them. Um, but it does take a while. If there's something you want to do, it takes a while to get that done. And I have a little custom minifig that we made in, a while ago. So that was pretty fun. So now I really don't know what the point of that piece is, because he's just. Why would you put a glow in the dark piece in the center of something? I don't know. Maybe Mr. Lego will come tell us. I almost wonder too, looking back at some of the Bob Ross stuff, the Happy Trees, the painter guy. I don't know that he really ever had too much of a goal when he was talking. He just kind of went in there and spoke. And I'm trust me, I'm not saying, "Oh, I'm the next Bob Ross." I did not say that at all. Don't misconstrue any of that. But I wonder. I think there's a documentary out there about him. I wonder if they talk about what his process was. Um, I think the goal for him was just to introduce people to the world of art, in that and anybody can do this. So clearly anybody can do Legos. So that wouldn't be my purpose. Um, but maybe people just want to hear another voice. That is pretty cool. Um, some of the new Lego stuff, as I see it, it's how they do it is so different now. And my guess is probably somewhere in Legoland, they've got a computer with some graphic representation of every piece imaginable. And then they upload something and they say, okay, design this, make this to work. And so the computer spits this stuff out because, some of these designs here, I'm telling you, as a Lego fan for 30 some, my 40 some years, that was never, this stuff was never anything that we thought to do. There's also a lot more bricks, more brick styles now than there ever was. There ever were. So maybe that has something to do with it. But oh man, oh yeah, here in the back, here. I'll put it this way, maybe you can see here. Maybe it'll come into focus. Maybe this here. 1992. This castle set right here. Oh my gosh, that was the coolest one. That was so cool. The horses and 86. So this presentation, this presentation brought to you by the letter A, is 4775. So 40,775, and this one is 6,086. So it's a lot of new Lego sets since the 90s. That's so cool. Okay, so it really isn't interactive when I say, "Oh, what do you guys want to talk about?" And you're not there. I recognize that, as goofy as that sounds. I suppose the question would be is if you ever have a topic that you think would be interesting for me to talk on, give me a holler. Yeah, obviously, if you found this, you know how to get a hold of me. Leave a message in the comments, perhaps. I don't know. I can talk about anything. One of my, I think, have you ever seen those memes, those reels, whatever it is, where they say, if I won the lotto, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs. I absolutely, without any doubt, any hesitation, would say I would have just like this massive, room of with all the shelving, and they have all the cool Lego kits built. Um, yeah, without any doubt, I would do that. I used to, so I like model building. Most of the sci-fi stuff. Um, but one of the issues with that is I don't think I'm very good at it. I have fun with it, and so I guess the question is, what are you doing it for? So long as I have fun with it, I guess it doesn't matter. Um, but well, these are some new weird pieces. Odd. Um, hmm, we'll see how these go. Yeah, so I didn't. I don't know. Okay, you gotta see this. It's the entrance. Do I do it on this one here? So that's the entrance. Then this little guy here Goes in. That's the bars. That's pretty cool. But Bob, it's an audio medium, and you're doing visual things. I know. I half apologize for that. Um, Now I've lost my train of thought because quite literally the drawbridge distracted me because it was pretty cool. Model building. I would love to have all the Star Trek and Star Wars and all the fun '90s models that really were huge. Um, but like I said, I can trim up the pieces with an X-Acto knife and I can glue them together just fine. But I just don't have that. Maybe it's a steady hand to paint and just the finishing work. As I had a friend who was very good at that. It's just not some ability that I have. And maybe one day I'll do it. But yes, so the signs would be for me, I would have a very large Lego room. And maybe this is the sign that I've made it. I'm not telling anybody, but that I am secretly building just a ton of Legos while streaming it live. And, you know, have I made it? I mean, I think I've made it a while ago. Success is relative, making it is relative. Um, I feel in many ways I've hit the lotto in ways that are not hey, you now have, $20 million in your bank account. I don't know what I would do with that. So I'd build said, you Lego chamber. Um, I don't know. Do you need to find happiness on your own? What makes you happy? What things make you happy? And I don't want to hear no, things don't make you happy. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys peace of mind. Don't ever let anyone tell you different from that. Don't ever let I don't buy the um, you know I I buy the do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, but I don't buy the um, maybe that's anti entrepreneurial of me. But I think you need some type of profession or skill that then gives you the freedom to have a YouTube channel that you can build Legos on that you got at Christmas time and talk about things. Yeah, kids don't quit school. Eat your Wheaties. I guess if there's something that advice I didn't take as a kid that I wish I would take now, or that I wish I would have, is to treat your body a little better. I was never into, drugs or any of that stuff. Occasionally I would, go have a beverage, but I mean, the ongoing joke is, every 2 or 3 years I might have a beer. It's just not my thing. I'm never going to be one to go to a restaurant and be like, oh, I need a cocktail here because I'm just, my life is such that it's it's never been my jam. So having said that, I don't understand that disease, if we're going to call it that or whatever. I don't know, or just even that lifestyle. Yes, some of you have seen me out at an establishment, and yes, I have had a beverage every now and then. But my gosh, I don't. We're talking happiness and what makes you happy. Um, Probably a mindset. Maybe that ties back to what we talked about half hour ago. Of hey, Dan, if you end up watching this and if you get 57 minutes into it, um, congratulations. I will not refund your time, but it was funny that you came up to me at that meeting and said, "Hey, when are you going to do another, building podcast?" And I had to chuckle because I figured of all of the stuff that I do, when I do a 3 hour long or 2 hour long interview with someone, people, depending on what they're interested, if I've got, somebody of note on, they'll be interested in listening to that, just because it's, some people like hearing about other people. This was my least, what I thought what might be my least interesting one, because it's like, okay, it's a podcast about about building Legos. How exciting can that be? And I have to be honest with you, the amount of people who have come up with me, Dan, you're one of them, that have come up to me and have said something like, "Oh yeah, I caught that one time." It's baffling to me. Is just I you know thanks for that, throwing out some love to you. Oh, now somebody's gonna now somebody's going to cut and clip that and say, "Oh, you're a bad person," but that's just me throwing out my love to everyone. Um, but yeah, how wild is that? That I'm to the point where I can make a Lego podcast of me just talking about randomness, and somebody watches it. Now, admittedly, I have not once looked at the view count for this. This is even just the second episode, so maybe like most good pilots, it'll drop off at the end, and I suppose that'd be fine too. But I didn't look, but just anecdotally, it has done very well relative to whatever. Um, I think this one does upload to Spotify, because you can do video there, but I intentionally don't throw it over to Apple Podcast because it doesn't do video here, and I couldn't possibly imagine listening to this, um, without some video. I missed a step. When you look and you have a bunch of pieces left over, you know you've missed a step somewhere. And missing a step is okay, because Lego, like life, you can always fix it. You can always take it back apart and see, now what are all those for? Who knows? How cool is that? Now you're probably thinking, well, how cool is what, Bob? We don't see anything. Let me put all these little pieces away. Every time I build one of these, there's so many extra pieces that makes me doubt, did I do everything right? What, did I miss something? It's all these little guys here. And then I just keep all right, here we go. Whoop, we have another one here. Yeah, this one had a lot of extra pieces, but it looks fine to me, so we'll do that. And as you know, it goes into my little Yoda, a little Yoda cup of goodies. Just add it to it, and so then one day maybe I'll have a giant collection of things. So here is, oh, there we go. Here's the castle. It's got this fancy drawbridge here. This is the mini castle, the mini version of the 1992, 60, 86, something like that. And then there's a little, we'll just put them on here as if he were going in. Oh no, I really sound like Mr. Rogers. Just a little knight in shining armor. Yeah, I'm interested. This little door here. See how I can? So this little door here, you can close it and open it. And inside, this little white piece, that's the glow in the dark piece. It's not advertised anywhere. A little Lego Easter egg, maybe. All right, 1 hour and 2 minutes in, and if you're still here, again, send me your name and number. I'll send you $1. Um, for the first one that does that. If you make it there, I will. I don't know. I don't even know why. That's all I got, folks. I think we covered while I was building this. Covered all sorts of stuff. Mean people in town, mean people on the radio, and my only ask is that you not be one of those people. So we're out of here. Thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next time. I don't know what we'll build next time. Maybe the Haunted Mansion from Walt Disney World, which also a huge Disney fan. All right, everybody. Thanks for checking us out, checking us out. I'm not even going to edit that. It's just going to go straight to post. Thanks, everyone.